allow Jesus into their heart. For man, it's impossible. For God, all things are possible. And pray. Consequences of what you're doing in terms of how that affects the person that's raped.
Yeah, the consequences, we look at that all the time, because it happens, she might scream, people might wake up. A lot of people.
I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about the emotional effect, the physical effect it has on
Yeah. Sometimes we know that we might rape her and wake up tomorrow with viruses ourselves, like HIV,
What about regretting what you've done to the girl?
I also do regret about it, because if she fell pregnant, what will be that baby's father? Who will be that baby's father?
But what about her personal feelings? They don't have a good response. When we import people into our country, we're importing their beliefs, we're importing their faith, and please remember that Islam is a political structure. It is not, quote, just a faith, it is a political structure. And it is unwise to bring people like this into our country. Not only do they stand adverse to God Almighty, but they also stand adverse to any form of compassion, as you just heard. So as hard as it can be, we do thank the Lord for placing supposedly wise people, like the people who have the open border policy idea, that mind virus. We thank the Lord for placing them on tall towers of shaking sand with their feature called the Tower of Babel. You know about the biblical truth of the Tower of Babel. A Disciples View presents the Tower of Babel.
If you have an issue with trans women being in cis women's sports, you're either not a real athlete, because any real athlete would welcome a challenge and welcome the opportunity to show that they're better than the other person, or two, you're a sore loser, or just not an athlete in general. So
3 sound bites in today's Tower Babbling. That's almost always the case. And gosh, I'm issuing a warning again. This is anatomically correct language. It's nothing that your kids wouldn't hear in the human biology course. First up in today's Tower Babbling, a woman named Hazel Kane, who is a man. I mean, you get the picture, right? A man pretending to be a woman is testifying against a bill to keep men out of women's locker rooms. The ongoing debate, which should never be a debate. And this man, who calls himself Hazel Kane, had this to say.
Hazel Kane, and testifying in opposition to Senate Bill 552. I think we just have to get something straight. We have to tell it like it is. Trans women are women. Some women are born with brown skin, some are born with light skin, some are born with green eyes, and some are born with blue eyes. Some have uteri, some have vulvas, some have XY chromosomes and penises. And I'm going to be quite frank with you, and I apologize for who I will offend. If you are a woman with a vulva and you're uncomfortable seeing a woman with a penis, too bad. You have to get over it.
Okay, there you go. That explains everything, right? Some women are born with fur and forelegs, or something. Next soundbite in today's Tower Babbling takes us to Chicago. You know about the tragic murder of Sheridan Gorman. We played a Tower Babbling clip last week about this. A Chicago older woman had said that Sheridan Gorman was in the wrong place at the wrong time, should have been not there. What was she doing? She was walking around. And that older woman said, well, maybe she startled the gunman, who happens to be an illegal immigrant. The so-called mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, was asked if he's going to cancel his anti-ICE event coming up.
Did you reconsider rescheduling this event given that Sheridan Gorman by an undocumented immigrant?
Well, look, as I've said before, my condolences to the family of Sheridan. This is a terrible tragedy.
removal of criminally violent illegal immigrants, not that tool. So every tool but that tool. Got it. Last soundbite in today's Tower Babbling, the disastrous jump the shark moment we talked about at the top of the show. This horrible, terrible press conference that Melania Trump held that was kicked off by a robot. This is the First Lady of France, Brigitte Macron, sitting next to Melania Trump, talking about some limits to the First Amendment.
I do know that I am the United States, a country that I love very much. And here, we are a country of free speech, but I think that liberty does have some rules. We have to be free, but adapt to certain codes. So I believe in these codes. Too many young people are suffering.
And then she tries to make it seem as if the speech codes are going to stop young people from suffering. Speech codes like, saying that trans women are women. And that's a wrap for today's Tower Babbling.
That was the Tower of Babbling. On a Disciple's View.
On a personal note, when you grew up, do you ever remember arranged play dates? And we did this. We're guilty of this. Do you ever remember the kind of helicopter parenting that people have been caused to do now? Or were you free range? Do you know what it is to be a free range kid? I had the great opportunity the other day to go hiking with my wife to a place near us that we used to hike as kids. And I mean as kids. And I got to share with my wife some things that happened up there. When we were kids, we would often be turned out of the house at 9 a.m. on Saturday. Okay, have a good day. Go outside. And it's not like our parents didn't want us around. I never felt that way. I never felt for a second like my mom or my dad didn't want me around. But they expected us to go out and construct our own play. And so much is learned in this. And I think back about one project we undertook when we were kids, and it was a free-range project. We decided to go build an underground fort. And we had a big enough lot where we lived in the Spokane Valley to go take this on. So we took out shovels and picks, and we didn't take tape measures or anything like that. We didn't think that far in advance. We were boys, and I'm guessing we were probably 7 years old, I think, when we decided to dig this hole. And what we were doing was mimicking an underground fort some guys had made out in the woods by where we lived. They actually used it for smoking weed and looking at bad magazines, and we weren't going to do that. We just wanted a cool fort. So we dug a hole, and then we put a couple pieces of plywood over the top of it, and we put dirt on it, and we got inside it, and then it started to collapse. So at that point, as 7 or 8 year old boys, we get out pieces of paper and crayons. And I'll never forget laying on our stomachs in the sunlight with the pieces of paper and the crayons, and we were drawing out how we could make it stronger because it had collapsed in the middle. Because we had 2 pieces of plywood, and didn't you know that the dirt came down in the middle? So we came up with an ingenious idea, more plywood. So that way less dirt will get in and it won't collapse in the middle, but that didn't work. So we finally got the notion of taking our father's firewood and stacking it up so that it could hold the middle up, and that worked. So we had a tunnel entrance that we could crawl in, and then we hid everything with grass, and so you couldn't see our forts, and then people walked on our fort. So then we had to put up a sign that says fort. You see where this is all going? It never did become this fort. Then I look back on that free-range day when we finally decided to take this stupid lid off the thing, take the plywood off, and turn it into what it always should have been, which was a free-range swimming pool. So we did that. And as we started to fill it with water, one of us got the idea, wait a minute, that's going to be a mud puddle. So we went and got tarp, filled it with tarp, filled it with water, and we had, for that summer, we had our own little swimming slog. And what did we learn from free-range play? I argued with my friend about how deep it should be. We compromised. We We argued about how to keep the roof up, so we experimented and we compromised. We argued about whether or not we should keep the fort hidden when people kept walking on it, and we compromised. We had other kids who wanted to be in our fort, and we decided it was just for us. And then we had to compromise because these were our friends, and it became more fun. And then when we wouldn't let my sister in, or his sisters in, our parents came and said, "You're going to compromise or the fort will be gone." And so then we had family, even against our will, and it got better. Then when we took the roof off the thing, and we put the tarp inside, and we filled it with water, it became a plaything for everybody. And there was no more a need to compromise. We created some sort of asset for the neighborhood. And look, it was a stupid little swimming hole. But it was a swimming hole in a neighborhood without swimming pools and backyards. That didn't happen then. People didn't have the money, and it wasn't commonly done unless it was in really rich homes. Free-range play is something that kids benefit from, and I think it's something that we were constructed to do. I think God has given us the gift of curiosity. And this is a misunderstood gift. If you examine human curiosity, it differs from animal curiosity in a very key way. Animal curiosity is about, how do I eat? When animals play, they're really rehearsing hunting and hunting skills. Our cats do this, and what they really want to be doing is hunting. They just don't get to. Human curiosity goes beyond, how do I eat, to how do I make food taste better? How do I store it for a longer period of time? How can I take more food with me? Human curiosity always seems to extend into, how did I get here? Why am I here? And what's the meaning of being here? I think one of the biggest blessings God has given us is curiosity, because it's through curiosity that we seek Him out. And in free-range play, kids have an opportunity to grow that muscle of curiosity, which, well-guided and well-stewarded, can allow us as parents to question our kids' curiosity, to key it up, to think about the things eternal. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. Because we believe, we speak. Because He first loved us, we speak His Word and walk the path of Jesus Christ to make disciples of all nations. So God grants us permission to speak in it. May His peace watch over you. On behalf of Randy and AFR, I'm Todd Herman, and this has been A Disciple's View.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG, Greenville, Dallas.
It's instruction and inspiration from scholars, apologists, authors, preachers, and activists to deepen your Christian understanding. You could enroll in seminary, but a better way might be the AFA Cultural Institute. You'll find a collection of more than 50 informative inspirational video lectures with more to come. Visit stream.afa.net to experience the AFA Cultural Institute.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. President Trump says there's a difference in the way he and his Director of National Intelligence see the nuclear situation in Iran. Tanya J. Powers has more.
President Trump says he still has confidence in his Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, telling reporters on Air Force One that she has, quote, a different thought process.
I'm very strong on the fact that I don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Because if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it immediately. I think she's probably a little bit softer on that issue, but that's okay. Some people are. Most people aren't. Most people are saying thank you very much for doing what you did.
Gabbard has long been considered an anti-interventionist on foreign wars, and questions about her views have come to light since her top aide, Joe Kent, stepped down earlier this month, condemning U.S. involvement in the Middle East.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent telling the New York Post he is launching a new program to crack down on government fraud. He says any whistleblower who comes forward with information regarding illegal fraud schemes would receive a cash reward, which would be up to 30% of the fines recovered by the government. Secretary Bessent says President Trump and the administration are all hands on deck in helping to protect the American taxpayers' money.
It's being stolen from the American taxpayer. We need to be a high-trust society. We need to understand that this is where the money is going. And this administration, this could be hundreds of billions of dollars.
Thousands of tons of Russian oil have arrived in Cuba after President Trump signaled he would lift a block on shipments to the island.
Moscow's Ministry of Transport says a Russian tanker carrying 100,000 tons of crude oil has reached Cuban waters. The United States cut off Venezuelan oil exports to Cuba after ousting President Nicolas Maduro in January, exacerbating an energy crisis. But President Trump signaled a softening of the de facto blockade.
I'd prefer letting it in, whether it's Russia or anybody else, because the people need heat and cooling and all of the other things that you need.
The island of 10 million people has seen strict gasoline rationing and a series of blackouts. Jonathan Savage, Fox News.
A Canadian Christian educator and conservative activist is concerned about Parliament passing a bill that makes it against the law to tell the truth about Muslims and the LGBT community.
The Canadian Liberal Party, with the help of Bloc Québécois, passed the contentious Bill C-9, dubbed the Combating Hate Act, which will now go to the Senate. Conservatives of the New Democrat Party, or NDP, voted against the legislation. What it basically does is remove the religious exemption from Canada's hate speech law. Dr. Charles McVitie, who is president of Canada Christian College, says this will be a nightmare for Christians who espouse God's word.
The Bible is no longer a defense that would get you out of jail. And this, of course, will contribute to a European-like police state. In handcuffs and charged with a crime for posting something on social media.
McVitie says this is really all about the implementation of the Islamic anti-blasphemy laws.
This is all about stopping people from blaspheming Allah or Muhammad or the Muslims in any way, and also blaspheming the transgender community. And most of the charges in the UK are about speech that offended Muslims and the LGBT community.
I'm Chad Groening.
And finally, a deal to fund the Department of Homeland Security has stalled as lawmakers leave Washington for their 2-week recess. But at least some TSA officers are reportedly getting paid because of an executive order. Bill Malusian reports from Capitol Hill.
Our team down at Atlanta Airport talked to a handful of those agents there. They confirmed they did get a paycheck today, though one agent did say his was about 30 hours short of what he had worked. But looking at the bigger picture here, as these airports start trying to get back on track, Border Czar Tom Homan says ICE agents will be staying at those airports until things are running smoothly again.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty P.
Thoughts of the child you were carrying keep pouring over in your mind. A deep, unrelenting sadness overshadows your days, and you wonder if you will ever feel whole again. There is hope and healing from a reproductive loss. Call the International Helpline, 866-482-LIFE, and talk with someone who has been where you are. Your call is confidential, and we will help you find healing. 866-482-LIFE.
Religious freedom is about people of faith being able to live out their faith, live out their convictions, no matter where they are.
We equip. Sacred honor is the courage to speak truth, to live out your free speech.
We also rejoice in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio.
Welcome to The Core here on American Family Radio. Glad to have you with us here on the program. Walker Wildman here. AFR.net is our website. That's our URL. You can listen to the radio network live, both talk and music, over at afr.net. And you can also get the podcast there at afr.net. You can download the American Family Radio app as well on your smartphone, on your tablet device. It's free, takes just a couple minutes. Well, our share-a-thon, our twice-a-year share-a-thon, is coming up next week. It's our spring share-a-thon, and we're going to be asking you to come alongside the Ministry of American Family Radio and help financially support us. That's what's going to be going on next week. In preparation for that, we're in our final stages of preparing listener testimonies, listener stories. And so if you've been blessed by American Family Radio over the years, and you would please share how the Lord has blessed you through American Family Radio, we would love to hear from you. So I'm going to give out the number, and you can call in. It takes just about a minute or two. You can leave a brief listener story or listener testimony about how the Lord has used American Family Radio in your life. 877-876-8893, 877-876-8893. You can call in. It takes about 60 to 120 seconds, 1 to 2 minutes, to leave your listener story. 877-876-8893. Also, coming up in July, we have our Activate Summit. Our annual Activate Summit is coming up July 16th through the 18th here in Tupelo, Mississippi, and registration is now open for our Activate Summit. You can go to afa.net/summit, afa.net/